Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to talk about the books that I want to read in the month of May. So in addition to May being my first month of the summer, it is also my birthday month, so yay. But this month is a bit special because, that aside, because basically what I want to focus this month on is reading authors of color, whether that be Asian, Black, Hispanic, Iranian, like Middle Eastern, any author other than a white author, because I feel like I read a lot of white authors. So yes, that is going to be my main focus for the month. I have 7 books here that I really want to get to. They're all by authors of color. Okay, so the first book that I want to read, I don't have it physically. It literally got delivered to my house like a couple of minutes ago, like 30 minutes ago, to my house, like my house, not my apartment, at my college. But that is Witches Steeped in Gold by C.N. Smart. This came out yesterday, and it is a Jamaican-inspired fantasy about witches. It's also a female-female romance, I believe, and it's enemies to lovers. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm really excited about. I'm going to be doing a vlog of me reading that, so look out for that. But yes, that one is by a Black author. So yeah, that is definitely one that I want to read in the month of May. Basically what I was saying earlier, the list might shift or change depending on if I get books, if I, go home and I'm like digging through something and I'm like, oh, I forgot this is by an author of color, and I want to read it. But basically, like I said, the goal of this is to read only authors of color in the month of May, because I think it's so important to make sure that they are promoted, because so many white authors have their books out there and authors of color don't get the same promotion. So that is the goal of this month. That being said, so the next book that I would like to read in the month of May is Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. This is a contemporary, I know, shocking. However, this one sounds really cute, and it's also in the niche of like writing. I will say, I have found, so after reading Eliza and Her Monsters, I've realized that contemporary books that involve writing or a love of reading or fandom of any kind, I tend to like. So this is about a Black girl who loves to write. However, she never sees herself in others' writing. She always writes Black main characters in her stories, but she never sees them in others. And she gets accepted to a really prestigious art program, and when she goes in for her first creative writing class, the words aren't coming. There's no motivation, there's no what am I trying to say? There's no inspiration, nothing is coming, she's completely blank. And she realizes that she wants to write some sort of romance. However, she's never been in love, don't believe she's been on a date, don't believe she's ever had a boyfriend or anything like that. So the most of the plot of this is finding that experience. And I just think it's going to be really cute and fun and fluffy kind of a book. So yes, I'm really excited to read this. I also follow the author on Instagram, and she's also adorable. Her daughters are also really cute, and I followed her right before this came out, and all of her promo for it was amazing. But yes, I really want to read this. And I know it's a contemporary, but you know what? Back to status quo, it's my only contemporary on this list. The next book on this list is Shatter Me by Tahada Mafi. Tahada Mafi is Iranian, and I believe she's also Muslim. But I could be wrong about that, but that obviously doesn't play into the person of color, that's her religion. But yes, Shatter Me. This is a book that I'm sure many of the people who actually read will know what this is about, and have already read it. I have never read it, though I have a copy. Basically, if you don't know what this is about, you're living under a rock, or you're my family and you're interested. It's almost like a 2013 dystopian sci-fi novel, because in this world there are people with powers, and our main character Juliet is locked up in a tower, has been locked up in a tower for a really long time because her touch is deadly. And that's literally all I know. I know that her touch is deadly, if she touches anybody, they'll die, almost immediately. And, you know, that's a really dangerous thing to have. It also sucks for her because she can't touch anybody. But yes, I'm very interested. Also, the writing style for this is really interesting because I believe it's told in the form of like a diary. Like Juliet is writing a diary of, oh my goodness, the hair is irritating me. So she's writing basically a diary, but the way that she writes is really interesting. The way that Hadamafi writes is really interesting but like on some of the pages there's stuff written but then it's crossed out. So what I'm interested to see is how that is going to affect my reading experience, because obviously, like, even though it's crossed out, you're supposed to read it. So yeah, it just sounds really interesting. Next book is The Bone Witch by Rin Chipeko. Rin Chipeko is an author that has been very prevalent on Twitter recently. She has not been silent about how Asian authors and Asian people in general are being mistreated, how authors of color are not treated the same as white authors in the sense of the amount of money that they make based on their book deal and how much sales they get. ARCs, the most recent ARCs are advanced reader copies, it's ARCs, but everybody calls them ARCs. The amount of ARCs, if they get any, because a lot of authors of color don't get ARCs while lots of white authors do. And the most recent thing that she's brought up is that J. Kristoff is getting 4 ARCs, 4 different kinds of ARCs for his upcoming Empire of the Vampire novel. And basically she was saying how him getting 4 ARCs takes away funding from somebody who's a person of color, who can then, you know, finally have an arc of their book out in the world. But he's getting 4, which is just, it's extremely problematic, and we're not here for it. Anyway, that little background on her. Rin Chipeko is also Chinese and Filipino, so we have Asian representation in this, or with the author. So, The Bone Witch, first off, gorgeous cover, witch, buzzword. I don't know too much about this. Seems to be a trend on my channel recently where I buy things that I don't know much about, or I bought them a really long time ago and then I forgot what they're about, so. But I know I wanted to read them. So what I do know about this is it involves necromancy. So I believe our main character's brother died a couple of years ago and she accidentally brings him back to life. And that's literally all I know. But you know, that sounds really interesting. And yes, I'm very excited to read this. Okay, so the next book that I have on this TBR is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. Renee Ahdieh is an American-Korean author, so obviously we have Asian representation again. What I know of The Beautiful is we follow our main character, Celine, I believe. Yes, and she's just moved to New Orleans, and as you probably know, like, a lot of the times, New Orleans is like a supernatural hub for things. So anyway, I believe a series of murders begins to occur, and I think she somehow either like gets wrapped up in it or she has to figure out who's doing them. It involves vampires, although I have heard that some of the reasons that people didn't like this book is because they went into it thinking it's a vampire book as opposed to a book that just happens to have vampires in it. And I think that's been affecting a lot of people's ratings for it. Although I have heard good reviews about it, I just think you need to go into it knowing that the vampires are not the like main thing in them, they're just in it. So knowing that, hopefully I will definitely like this, but yes. Oh, cool. Because I believe there's an underground world known as Le Coeur de Lion, which is obviously the Court of Lions, I think. Don't quote me on that, because I could be wrong. My French is really bad. But there's like a lion on the cover. It's like embossed into the cover, which is really cool. Okay, so the next book on this TBR is The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please correct me in the comments. So, I received this book in an owl crate. Oh, it's also signed. 2018. So sometime in 2018, I received this book. From what I know, people have described it as very similar to Six of Crows because we follow a band of misfits who are come together to perform some sort of heist. I believe it is a time heist because I believe there is time traveling in this. I'm kind of hesitant to put this book on my list, not because I don't want to read it, but because I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about it. A lot of people's like biggest critiques is the fact that this is so close to Six of Crows that it was almost like reading the same novel with slightly different characters, which I don't know if that's going to be the case, but if it is similar to Six of Crows, I really did love the cast of characters and like the fact that they were doing a heist. So I could potentially really like this. But yes, I know that that was people's biggest critiques. It's also green, which is matching May because the gemstone for May is emerald. Green's also my favorite color. But yeah, I'm really interested to read this. I think I'm gonna really like. Also, Roshani Chachki is Filipino and Indian. So, okay, so the second to last book on this list is The Queen's Assassin by Melissa de la Cruz. Melissa de la Cruz is a Filipino American author, so again, Asian rep. It's the last Asian rep on this list. However, there are only 7 books and we're on number 7. So take that as you will. All I know is that this is about the Queen's assassin. I could read the back of it and refresh my memory, but I don't really like doing that just because I like to go into books not really knowing too much. Mostly because synopses don't typically give the right amount of information away. Like, I was reading Eliza and Her Monsters, and like the last 3 sentences of the synopsis is something that happens 3/4 of the way into the book. And while I love Eliza and Her Monsters, it really irritates me that the synopsis has something that happens 3/4 of the way into the book. Like yeah, it was predictable, and like maybe that's why they put it in the synopsis so like people don't rate it as a, huh, of course that was gonna happen. But at the same time, like, please don't do that. Any author, if you're listening, I don't want to do that for my novel. All I want to include is the fact that they're witches and they're going to school in my novel synopses. Really, I just need to get you hooked. I don't need you to tell me your whole life story when I'm reading a synopsis. I really don't. But anyway, like I said, I don't know much about this. I know it's about a Queen's assassin. I know there's a romance in here somewhere. That's like all I know. I think that like at some point there's an attempt on the Queen's life and like the assassin fails or something and she's like distraught. I could be completely speaking out of my ass right now, but yeah. Brianna said she started reading it. I don't know any updates on her, and Brianna's my best friend, by the way. Brianna started reading it, and I need to ask her if she's continued reading it because I haven't gotten any updates from her. She just told me that she was reading it, so. Okay, and the last book on this list, and you know, I think there's like 9 books on my TBR for the month because like, you know, in my journal I'm gonna have 9 books, but right now this video is only including 7. 2 honorable mentions being Witches Steeped in Gold and The Infinity Courts. So without further ado, the last book on my TBR for the month of May is one that was on my top 21 books to read in the month. Can you imagine me reading 21 books in 1 month? Oy vey. I don't think I would do anything else but read. Which, I mean, I'm not against too. Not against, but you know. Anyway, this was on my top 21 books to read in 2021. And that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This was a really popular book on BookTube when it came out. I don't even remember when did this come out. I want to say like 2018, close enough. 2018, and this is an African-inspired fantasy, and I don't know much about it other than that. I know we follow a girl, and they have like, I think there's like 5 different almost factions, and they each have different powers depending on what faction they belong to, and it follows this girl, and that's all I know. On the back of it, it says, "They killed my mother, they took our magic, they tried to bury us, now we rise." Like I said in my 21 books video, it almost sounds like a 2013 dystopian / sci-fi novel where there's going to be some sort of rebellion because they've oppressed, or the government has like taken control in a very bad way and they're like corralling people, and that's what it sounds like. I don't think that's what it is, but that's what it sounds like. So those are all of the books that I plan to read in the month of May. Granted, I could be acquiring more, but like I said, the biggest goal for this month is to read books by authors of color. Yeah, please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them. I really do want to know. If you like this video, please do give me a big thumbs up, as Emma would say, which just makes me laugh. And if you like this video or any other content on my channel, please do consider subscribing to me. I would really appreciate it, and anything helps to support the channel. With that being said, I hope you are doing well wherever you are, whatever time you're in, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!